So, as you all know, this channel focuses on travel. But today I want to talk about anti-Blackness. Even though we're out here traveling the world and having a wonderful time, sometimes it can be hurtful to be abroad. So that's what we're discussing. I want you all to know that I am very nervous to have this conversation because anytime that there is a moment that Black people are advocating for themselves, there is a problem. People will have backlash because we know how the world is. So just work with me through this. Please be there to support me and to really just be a champion for Blackness in the comments, because this is a controversial topic. This is a difficult video, but I would not be myself if I shied away from topics such as this. So hello, if you are new to my channel, welcome to Fly Like Me PhD. I am Dr. Maya and I encourage Black women to live or move abroad. I have lived in 6 countries and I have traveled to 45 countries. So normally I am so excited to talk about travel. I want to tell you all of the things, but today is going to be a video about how they tried it, how people were anti-Black, and how hurtful that was to my specific experience. So even though I've observed people be anti-Black to other people, today I'm going to talk about how it was damaging to me and my own psyche as a person. So let's go back before we go all of the way in. Y'all know I love to show you my outfits, so I am going to, of course, do that. This shirt is from the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute, where I was lucky enough to go to. It is in Birmingham, Alabama, very cultural to our history as Black Americans. If you have the opportunity, if you are in Alabama, if you travel through Alabama, please go and check out that historic museum because it's going to give you a lot about the culture. So we're going to go back. I want to give you definitions. I want to provide information so that none of us are confused. Anti-Blackness is going to be the hatred, the disdain, the abhorrence of people that are connected to the African diaspora or have lineage, have a legacy that is connected to people in Africa, ancestry tied to it if you're a person that lives in Africa. And anti-Blackness is global, meaning that it occurs all over the world. And really, the entire world has leaned in to anti-Blackness by elevating whiteness or white supremacy over Blackness. So those are going to be the two contradictory pieces. Is anti-Blackness is going to be on one side, the hatred of Black people and anything connected to Blackness. And then whiteness is going to be on the other side, or white supremacy, the preference, the love, the leaning into for something that is connected to whiteness, Eurocentric beauty standards, European standards and ways of being. Those are the two contradictions that the world leans into. And then all other groups, which I do not want to say or minimize or reduce groups at all, fall somewhere in the middle between those two. But we needed to have, or the two differences were established in order for people to know what a negative person or what something quote unquote inappropriate was, and that got relegated to Blackness, and then something that was angelic and pure and preferred, and that got connected to whiteness. So they needed to have that dichotomy so that we could understand what we didn't want to be like and what we would aim to be like globally. So I want you all to know, you know that I'm Dr. Maya. I have a PhD in social work and I am a racial scholar. So I want you to know I can lean in and talk about this topic for the rest of my life. My dissertation focuses on colorism, and colorism is going to be the preference that we have for people that have a lighter skin tone and the disdain that is held for people with a darker skin tone. Along with colorism, there is featureism. So featureism is going to be the preference for certain features, such as hair texture, such as nose shape, such as lip shape, such as eye color, such as body type. And all of this goes into supporting the fact that Black people have been relegated to the bottom because our racial group is connected to negativity, to people not liking it, to people feeling like they can disrespect it. And in addition to that racial group, it's also going to be tied to the fact that we have specific features that the world views as unattractive, that the world views negatively, and that the world does not promote or like. And so that is going to be, and I'm like, just look at me if we need examples for this. And this is not at all me coming at myself. It's not. When I'm establishing this and when I'm telling you all this information is so that you can know how the world feels, right? So in terms of the features that Black people naturally possess, such as kinkier hair texture, seen here, such as darker skin tone, such as a wider nose, such as fuller lips, such as darker eyes, these are all things that have been relegated to the bottom and that people don't necessarily like or prefer. Or sometimes we see if there is a preference and people like these things, it's going to be in fetishization. And so what that is when you have a fetish for something, right? It's like something that's a little abnormal, a preference for something, but it is not a healthy preference. It is just like you like it because it is different. You like it because it's quote unquote exotic. You like it because it's not something you're used to seeing, but it's not necessarily in a healthy way. So that is a lot. I gave a lot of definitions. I tried to establish what anti-Blackness is. And now we're going to take it globally. We know what the U.S. has done. Turn on your TV, watch the news every single day to know what they have done and continue to do. Read some books and you got that. But I want to give y'all specific examples of a person that has been abroad, as a person that has lived abroad multiple times, as a person that speaks another language. I am a second language Spanish speaker. The things that I have heard, the hate that it has caused, and the problems. And I am focused on anti-Blackness, but I also want you all to know that this is going to intersect with gender as well. So me presenting and being a woman is also going to be a problem in addition to being Black. So this is just a conversation that is really unfortunate to have. We hate to have it. I am going to be calling out multiple nations, but know that all nations could be involved in this conversation. I'm just focusing on the specific nations that I had the issue with or I heard certain things. So that's what we're doing today, y'all. I feel that this is complicated. It is difficult. We all have to work through unlearning the hatred of Blackness, right? Even Black people, we sometimes perpetuate stereotypes. We collude. We laugh at each other. We make jokes and a mockery of each other for things that are connected to being Black. And so we all are having to unlearn that and work through that. And just so that you know that I am not a perfect person, the reason that I study colorism is not only because I was a victim, but I also perpetuated the idea. I remember being a kid and laughing and joking or not feeling that people with extremely dark skin were attractive. I remember not thinking that people wearing their natural hair was cute, even though you see me wearing my natural hair now. So it's been a whole journey. All of us need to process or unlearn all of the things that have happened. And I just want you to know I'm giving it to you raw. This is an authentic account of things that have happened to me. And I think it's time for us to go there. I think it's time for us to have this conversation and stop pretending that every other place in the world is better than the US, because other places in the world tried it too. And I'm saying when I say tried it, we're disrespectful to us as well. So let's talk about it. Let's sit here and have a conversation. I'm going to tell you about the anti-Blackness that I have faced while I was abroad. First, we're going to start with Morocco. I was so excited to go to Morocco. I'm like, ooh, Africa, you're going to finally be on a continent. We're going to be in the motherland. And I had a very different experience from that. I remember a guy that is Moroccan from the country that lives there every single day asking me like, are you from Africa? And I would think to myself, dude, you literally live in the continent. You're literally Moroccan. Why are you asking me if I'm from Africa, right? And this is a piece of othering, separating yourself. I could tell that this dude was trying to separate himself from the continent of Africa. And that happens as a part of anti-Blackness, where Africa is associated with Blackness, rightfully so. And he did not want to be a part of that. He's like, yeah, no, I identify more with being a part of the Middle East, right? Even though geographically the country of Morocco is in Africa, he was not interested or did not identify as an African person. This is, again, anti-Blackness. This experience also happened in India. I was riding in a car with two friends that are lighter skinned than me. And I was there, and the taxi driver turned to me and said, "Are you from Africa?" And again, I was like, okay, why are you pointing me out specifically to ask if I'm from Africa and not asking the people that I'm with? We came on this trip together that are also with me on this trip if they're from Africa. And so I explained, I'm not from Africa. My ancestors are from Africa, but I am from the US and I do identify as Black. And then I proceeded to ask him about the lighter skinned people in the car. I'm like, do you think that they're from Africa? And he's like, no, I have no idea where they're from. So I want you all to know that this is a piece of colorism, where colorism allows people that are of a lighter skin tone to be from anywhere, right? We know this, like people that are a lighter skin have been passing so long, right? Some people have been passing for white. Some people will pass as if they're from other marginalized groups to not be associated with Blackness. And that was another example where they could pass as people from anywhere, but me as a person that is darker skinned had to be from Africa. Again, I want to reiterate and I want y'all to know I ain't got no problem being associated with Africa. I ain't got no problem with, talking about my ancestors and where they're from. That's never an issue for me. But it is the fact that people want to other, or they want to distance themselves, or they want to put you into a box of where you're from and who you are, rather than recognizing that all of the people in that car had our ancestors from Africa. Problem. All right, so we're going to move on, and now we're going to go to another country. We are specifically going to go to the Dominican Republic. The Dominican Republic was a very difficult experience for me. This was a place I also had lived. One of the countries I tell you all that I lived in the Dominican Republic for 6 months. So I want you to know I was not a guest. I was not a visitor. I lived in an orphanage with orphan and abandoned children. I was there for 6 months. I was in the place. So when I tell you these things actually happened, they did. Number one with anti-Blackness was the fact that they always compared me to the white volunteers. I was the only Black volunteer at the time, and the kids in the orphanage would constantly say that the white volunteers were more attractive than me. They liked their hair better than my hair, even though we had similar hair textures, and it was extremely hurtful. They also teased me for my hair on numerous occasions and still continue to do so. When I will talk to or connect with someone from my experience, they will still tease me about my hair because they define define my hair as being nappy. They define my hair as unattractive. They define my hair as ugly. And so they begged me day after day after day to straighten my hair. They were like, why do you keep wanting to wear your hair like that? And it was super hurtful to me and a very painful experience because I endured this being compared to white people and my hair not being good enough every single day that I was at that orphanage. And I know what you could be thinking because I'm thinking the same thing. It's like, why do you still talk to people from that experience? But I did have connections with them. I did recognize in my mind, I'm like, they're just children and we all have learned damaging things from the society. So I tried not to hold that against them. But I would say probably if you are a person that has been hurt in that way, you don't have to continue to engage with people that say painful things to you. The next place I'm about to surprise you is Colombia, because I talk to y'all about Colombia all the time. I'm like, oh, Colombia, I would love to live there. I'm hoping to live there next year. That is still a fact. But Colombia did make the list, and Colombia is making the list because I lived in Colombia for an entire year. So again, I was not a visitor. I wasn't on a resort. I was living life with the locals, so I can tell you what I experienced. It's going to be two things. Number one, there is a saying in Colombia, or it could be in other places, but this is just what I heard from someone in Colombia. The saying goes, work hard like a black to live like a white, or work hard like a black person to live like a white person. And that quote was super damaging. I mean, it just like goes back into perpetuating stereotypes about us, right? That black people are working super hard all of the time. We are always and constantly expected to work, and white people are living comfortably. And that was the saying. And this person who is Colombian was like, yeah, I'm doing just that. I'm working hard, so eventually I can live lavish. And that is painful, and that is anti-black, and that is not okay to think that that is a joke or something that you should say. Number two is that I remember people calling me Morena a lot, referring to me as Morena all of the time instead of my name. So it would be like saying black person rather than saying Maya. I also know another person that they called Negra all of the time, right? Black person instead of saying her name. You know, I don't even know her name because they were always like negra, right? Negra, excuse me. And for myself, I was always Morena. And sometimes I've been negra too. So again, this is not to say that we are upset and we don't identify as black, but the fact that we were reduced down to only our racial group is a problem. We are more than just our racial group. We are people. We have names, and it's not Morena and it's not negra. Another one, and probably one of, okay, I'm saying the most painful. Let me not play that game because DR was very painful. But an equally more painful experience is going to be in Uruguay. So I was visiting Uruguay, and at the time I had a shortcut. I had done like the big chop. And so my hair was very, very short, kind of like how guys similarly wear their hair. It was like a haircut, very, very short. And at the airport, when I was in Latin America, I would be misgendered all of the time, and I would be called a man all of the time. And this particular time when I was in Uruguay, I was headed to the woman's bathroom, and somebody stopped me and was like, stop, that's the woman's bathroom, the woman that worked there. And I said, I am a woman. I had to unzip my jacket and show her the contour of my body so that she knew I was a woman. And then she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. You know, and this is going to be more complicated. There are specific racial groups that they associate with certain genders. When it comes to blackness, blackness is often associated with maleness. And so as you all know, as black people, black women constantly are trying to prove femininity. They're constantly trying to prove that they are women because they love to strip that away from us. I think that this is really related. And remember, like I told y'all, I'm a scholar on the topic, so we can have conversation. But a lot of this is related to how black people's bodies are shaped. You can often see black people, specifically if we go back to Africa, you can see very tall black people. You can see people of very dark skin. We can even see women in African countries wearing very short haircuts, which have been associated with haircuts that men would wear. We know historically that women have been working in fields just as men have. And so there is this aspect or understanding where people think that if a black person is around and you are a non-black person, I will say when it came to black people, they did not misgender me at all. But a non-black person will automatically associate a black person, especially if they're dark skinned, as being a man. And that was a constant experience that I had to go through. And this is going to be gendered racism, right? Not just racism, but also gender, the fact of being black and being women and being mistreated in that type of way. Where there's other groups historically where you could be both. They are not associating a person with being male or female just based on their racial group. And that's whiteness, right? Like that is a privilege of whiteness, is that you are not necessarily being associated with a certain type of gender. You can like introduce yourself, or, you know, people learn your name and then they're like, oh, okay, this person is a this, or this person is that, whatever, identifies with this type of gender. And for black people, that is not the case. I also want to bring in Asian people as well. They're another group that has often been associated with a specific gender, and that is with them being connected to being women. And so with Asian culture, I think specifically because they tend to be shorter, they tend to have a smaller body type. And these are things that we associate with women, or we associate as being feminine. So when it comes to Asian people, a lot of times, sometimes people will associate them with being women when a person could be a man. So these are just examples of gendered racism and how that impacts our lives. And it would just be so terrible in Latin America when I would walk around and be misgendered, being called a man all of the time, that I started to wear a scarf in the bathroom so that people would know that I was a woman. Like it was feminine, quote unquote, I guess a feminine piece of clothing, or what people associate with being feminine. And at that point, they would stop calling me a man, but it was horrible. It was specifically horrible to me because I identify so strongly as being a woman. And as you know, my research centers black girls and black women. And so that is very important to me. And I don't want that to ever be taken away from me. And I'll let y'all know right now, I will never let anybody take that away from me. I still strongly identify how I do, even if people want to misgender me. Another thing was in Curacao, I was mistaken as the wait staff. So there were a lot of black people that were working as waiters and waitresses at a restaurant. And there was a person that was non-black at that restaurant and saw me and immediately thought that I was a wait staff. And that was hurtful to me. Again, what I'm trying to let y'all know is that there is no shame in being black. There's no shame in being wait staff. But the fact that you just see a black person and you automatically assume that they are doing some servitude to you is not okay. And so that was extremely painful as well. In Mexico, specifically in Mexico City, we walked around and people would stare at us all the time. I felt like it was because there were no black people in the space. And so they probably were wondering, what are y'all doing here? And we got stared down. You know how we would teach kids, like, do not be rude, do not stare at people? That is how they stared at us the whole time. Stare down, not even a look and look away, but a stare down, to the fact of making us uncomfortable and to making us sad. You know, so these are just continued instances of anti-blackness where we're just living in our bodies, living our truth, and made to feel bad about that, made to feel that we are not enough. While I was in Spain, Somebody in Spain, a Spaniard, told me he saw me, and this is the fetishization piece I was telling you about. This is the opposite, right? There can be people having disdain for you, but then there can also be people that want to fetishize you. And he said, I love chocolate. To me, as a person, again, we should stop saying, I like chocolate. Ooh, this person is chocolatey. These are not appropriate things to say. This is reducing a person down to their skin tone, and it is not okay, right? This is a piece that is extremely harmful. So if you are doing that, you should stop, because this is a fetishization. So he said that to me. That is not a compliment. That is fetishizing me because of my skin tone, and it's not okay. This also would occur to me in another nation. This occurred to me specifically when I was in Argentina. Again, I lived in Argentina. I was not a guest. I was not on a resort. I was not visiting. I lived there. And people always wanted to take pictures with me. This is another piece of fetishization. There was also times that people wanted to have a sexual experience with me because of the association that Black women could be promiscuous or could be salacious, and that our bodies are just used for other people's pleasure. And it's not okay. It is not okay to assume that or to think that just because you saw that person. Continuing off of Argentina, and I also want to add Italy into the piece, is having Black people only relegated as workers. I remember not seeing a lot of Black people in either of these spaces, Argentina and Italy, but I saw them as workers on the street all the time. It was a lot of immigrants or people that were just trying to sell things to people in the space. So we know, again, based on history, they have extracted so many resources from Africa that people have to go to other countries or places that predominantly have white people and beg on the street for them to buy things from them, when really they need to give those resources back to those countries. They're thriving while other countries are really suffering, and that's also not okay. Now we got to go to China, and I'm like, man, I really feel that when it comes to China, it's going to be like, Maya, you just hate China. I get it, because I talk about China and my experience there a lot, but I don't hate China. I hate how China treats Black people. I'm going to repeat that again. I don't hate China. I hate how China treats Black people. That is it for me. And I will forever call that out, because that is also not okay. So in China, I had braids, and people would touch my braids without permission, grab my braids without permission, take pictures of me without permission. This is, again, a fetishization. I also want you to know, and this is probably why I have so many issues with China, is this was one of the first times I was followed in a store, was in China. I went in to a store with a Chinese friend. That friend was over there touching stuff, looking at stuff, figuring out what she wanted. I wasn't buying anything. I was just waiting for her. And so I was just walking around, waiting, maybe like a window shopping. And this woman followed me the entire time. Every aisle I went to, I turned around, she was there. Every time I went anywhere, I turned around, she was there. So I just told my Chinese friend, I was like, I'll just wait for you on the outside. So I just stood outside and waited. And while I was there, she looked at me the entire time. It is still painful to this day for me to talk about some of the stuff that happened to me in China, and I just need y'all to know. Another time was there was a kid, a Chinese kid, I think maybe all of 4 years old. I walked into the ice cream shop with the same friend, and the kid goes, "Black, black, black," like that. And it was just like super awkward. And they said it in Chinese. Chinese is not, that is not my language. I cannot tell you what they said, but the friend translated it, and they just stared me down and pointed at me and kept telling me, black. Again, reducing us down to just our skin tone, and extremely painful and extremely hurtful. Costa Rica. I was in a group in Costa Rica. I also lived in Costa Rica. I keep telling y'all I lived in these places so that you can know it wasn't like, I was just there for 5 seconds and they did that. I lived there. I lived in Costa Rica. and I was with a group of majority white people. I was an advisor for this program, supporting one of the professors. And this woman was just kept looking at me, being angry and pointing at me, mumbling under her breath. I don't know what her issue was, but she didn't point at anybody else on the group. She just pointed to me. So I hid myself within the group of my students. I hid myself within that group so that the woman would stop pointing and saying whatever that she was mumbling under her breath. So that is what I have for y'all. That is anti-Blackness abroad. I don't want to make it seem like being abroad is going to be perfect. I want to let y'all know that sometimes they can be hurtful and painful to us too. So in our comment section for today, I would love for you all to tell me if you've experienced anything related to anti-Blackness while you were abroad. How did you handle it? Are you okay? Do you have any advice for the rest of us dealing with anti-Blackness when we go abroad? I also want to let you all know what our next video is going to be. Our next video, we're talking about Black excellence from the United States standpoint. And is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? How do we lean into Black excellence? How do we question it? This is going to be a live. I would love to see you all there. It is occurring on May 30th, and it will be on my channel. You will, if you have subscribed to my channel, be notified when it is upcoming. You can also click the notification button at the time that I upload the information about this chat if you want to get an additional notification when we're having that conversation. I want to thank everyone that has watched this video, that has believed all of my experiences, that will not question it, and that has supported me in these times when I needed to call somebody and just really cry and vent about the things that had happened to me when I was abroad. And it's always really great to talk to you all. We will never forget that Black Lives Matter. And as much as we have to go through as Black people, we are still here. We are still surviving. We are still thriving, and we are still doing our best. And that's all that matters. So y'all have a really great day. I really look forward to seeing you if you are available for that live at the end of May. Bye.